Hey everybody, so this is part 2 of the p5.js lesson on envelopes. So in the last video I just showed you how to use the envelope object and the set ADSR, attack, decay, sustain, release to include in our oscillator object, which allows us to sort of make sounds that begin and end in one key press without having to use the osc start or osc stop with that. So I press a key and that gives me my sounds there. Okay, so I mentioned I was going to make a project sort of inspired by something in Chrome Music Lab. So I'm going to go here to the oscillators. This is one of my favorite things in Chrome Music Lab. So we have the square, we have the Sawtooth sound, we have the triangle, and we have the sine wave. Okay, so I'm going to create a project. It's not going to have a long sound like this, but it's more sort of the sounds themselves, the oscillator types, and also the shapes and colors that's going to kind of inspire the project I'm going to make here. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is I want to show you how to change the type of oscillator you're using. So remember when we learned about oscillators, I could go in here and write triangle in quotes, and that will change the kind of oscillator that I have. So I can write square. You can kind of hear the change there. I could write Sawtooth, and I get all those different sounds. But let's say I want it to change at different points in the sketch. Okay, so I'm going to make it so that each time I press a different key, that it will make the sound, okay, it will always play no matter what key I press, but if I press a specific key, it's going to use either a square, a sawtooth, a triangle, or a sine wave. All right, so to do that, there's a condition that needs to be met. It's if I'm pressing a certain key. So I'm just going to write if, open, close parentheses, open, close curly brackets as the basis of my conditional statements. Remember, in the parentheses is the condition. So in this case, the condition is simply what key am I pressing? Am I pressing this key? If I press this key. So key, double equal sign, and then I'm just going to do the A key for my first one. Okay, so if I'm pressing the A key, remember double equal sign is in a conditional checking for equality. Are these things equal? Is the key I pressed the A key? And if it is, so I'm going to write osc, and then I'm going to write lowercase s set, then capital T type, open, close parentheses. Okay, now setType is, if I go back to the libraries here, so remember I showed you in the P5 website, you go to libraries here and go to the sound, will take me there. References, this is part of the oscillator. This is a method in oscillator. Okay, so if we look at here, we'll see some. We know start, we know stop, we know amp, we know freak, setType. Okay, so setType is basically tells me I can use setType with my object, and then the parameter is just the argument I use. I can either write sine, triangle, sawtooth, or square. So I'm going to say if I press A, I'm going to make that the, let's say, the triangle. Okay, so now the default is always going to be sine. So I'm going to press a key besides A. Okay, I'm pressing a bunch of different. Now if I press A, you hear it different. Okay, now when I press any key, it's going to keep it because I have set it back to triangle. Okay, so next I want to do this for all 4 different sounds. So all I need to do is copy and paste this conditional statement and change a few things. So key I'm going to change to S, and then I'm going to change the type to sawtooth. Okay, then I'm going to change the key to D, and I'm going to set that to square. Type it correctly. And then A, I'm going to change that A to F, and I'm going to set the type to sine. Okay, so now I run it, and I click the canvas. I press A, I get a triangle. I press S, I get a sawtooth. I press D, I get the square. I press F, I get the sine. Okay, so one more thing now that I'm going to do before I stop this video and go to the next part where I show you the visuals I'm going to add. I'm going to change the frequency. So not only do I want a different sound, I want a different frequency to each as well. Okay, so all I need to do for that is osc.freq. Okay, So this will change the frequency. So every time I press A key, it'll set up for a triangle and it'll set the frequency. So I'm going to go 220. I'm going to make this the lowest sound that I do. Okay, and now just to keep things easy, I'll copy and paste this, again, inside the parentheses of this conditional statement. So with the Sawtooth, I'm going to go 440. With the square wave, I'm going to go 660. That's going to go up by 220 every time. And then in here, on the sine wave, finally, I'm going to go 880. All right, so now each key I press will change the type of oscillator I have and will give me a different pitch. Okay, so now I press A, I have a low triangle, I press S, I have a higher sawtooth, I press D, I have a higher square, I press F, I have a high sine. Okay, so now I can control all my different sounds with these key presses. Again, I have my envelope object here, which makes them just play once when I press the key. It will start and stop using the ADSR parameters I've set. So in the last video of this, I'm going to show you some visuals that I want to incorporate into this. See you there.